What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow. So today we are back going to be talking not about US Survivor or Survivor South Africa. Today we are going to be talking about Australian Survivor, the newest and latest season, Blood versus Water. So my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and in case you guys didn't know this already, Rachel watches Australian Survivor. I do not really. I've seen like a handful of episodes because we've done other podcasts on Australian Survivor, and there was one season that I like tried to watch, but Australian Survivor has 3 episodes a week, and like I don't have the attention span for that. So I am not as familiar with Australian Survivor as Rachel is.
Yeah, so I've seen all of the like Australian Survivor seasons, the ones that are on Paramount Plus now. I guess they like had old seasons and then they like restarted the franchise. I guess sort of similar to um Survivor South Africa, where like they had seasons and then stopped. But I think it's so weird that for this newest season, Blood versus Water, that it's not on Paramount Plus. I feel like they're missing out, especially because there were some like tweets, oh hey, this newest season will be on Paramount Plus because all of 1 through 6 are on Paramount Plus. So it's like, oh, there's a lot of new fans watching now. There's a lot of Americans watching Australian Survivor. And with Sandra on it, I feel like it's such a big draw for other people from other countries to be able to tune in to Australian Survivor. So it just felt weird that they're not sticking it on Paramount Plus, like as the episodes are released.
The other thing was they spoiled the winner of last season at the beginning of this season, and I was like, what the heck? If I was someone who was just trying to like watch live for the first time and I hadn't started watching Brains versus Brawn yet, I would have been like, what the heck?
Yeah, Alyssa, now you know who won last season. So I guess if you go back and watch that one, you know who wins. But
Which is frustrating because I like not being spoiled.
yeah, so I guess they should have had a spoiler warning on there because the seasons on Paramount Plus were like sort of just dropped. So it's not like unless you powered through every single season to be able to catch up, then a lot of people probably got spoiled in the first few minutes of Blood versus Water of the Brain versus Brawn winner. But since this isn't on Paramount Plus, you can go onto the Facebook group called The Tribe Has Spoken, and they post all of the episodes like the day after they air in Australia. So if you were trying to watch this latest season of Australian Survivor, check that out. Before the episodes were on Paramount Plus, that is how Alyssa and I watch that stuff. They also post a bunch of other foreign seasons of Survivor. So, like regular Survivor as well as Survivor South Africa, if you're looking to get interest into that. So, definitely check out that Facebook group. Super easy to watch. You just have to like get accepted into the group, which might take a couple days.
Yep, and that was where we watched all of Survivor South Africa when we did our South Africa binge watch. So, yeah, it's a pretty cool group. They talk about the show sometimes, but it's pretty easy not to get spoiled as long as you're like not looking for spoilers. So,
Yeah, just don't go on Facebook because the stuff will show up in your home feed. And I don't even like have Twitter, but I get email notifications of Australian Survivor Twitter, like JLP's tweets. And I'm like, no, I keep getting spoiled before I watch the episode. But yeah, since with the time zone differences, you just sort of have to be more diligent about if you don't want to get spoiled for the upcoming episode, don't look at those things. Otherwise, like they'll have their face plastered on there of who just got voted out. But overall thoughts, this podcast, we're just going to be really talking about the premiere episode. So, episode 1 of Australian Survivor, Blood versus Water. Like Alyssa said, this is on 3 times a week, and it's like an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half per episode. So, it is a long time if you are going to sit down and like binge it, I guess. But for this premiere episodes, we'll try not to spoil any other seasons of Australian Survivor, but we might talk and allude to what happened in episode 2 and 3, but we're not necessarily going to be like delving into too much of the strategy of this first week. but just basically telling you all, should you watch Australian Survivor or not? But Australian Survivor, they said 47 days, 24 people. So different on both the days and the number of people from US Survivor. They filmed this in Charters Towers, Queensland, which is the third season they filmed in Australia due to the pandemic, which is very interesting. I'm so excited. Australian Survivor is great. I love talking about it with you, Alyssa, as well as I wish they would tell us more about the like Australian area that they're in, because I felt like Survivor South Africa gave us a lot of like some history of where they're at. So I wish they would tell us some about this Australian area that they're in and filming at.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because the version of it that I watched had a little clip at the beginning that was talking about how they were on the land of some indigenous Australian people, but they never really like mentioned that in the body of the episode. They only like had that little title card at the beginning. So I feel like that would have been like a really interesting kind of like history lesson slash culture thing, just because I feel like in US Survivor, I really enjoy it when they talk about like the history and culture of the region. I really enjoyed it when they were talking about it for like Survivor South Africa. And I feel like the same could be true of Survivor Australia, especially just because I feel like overall Survivor Australia doesn't seem to have a lot of diversity. Like basically all of the cast is white people. So I feel like if you're not going to have a diverse cast, you should at least like talk about respecting the groups of people whose land you're on, you know?
Yeah, I guess for the diversity, it definitely is an issue. I saw some Australian YouTuber like make a video about Australian Survivor, and then like they were saying, oh, they were like making fun of the cast kind of thing. And so that's like interesting versus like how the US now with the CBS 50% by POC initiatives that they're doing. I would definitely say for this season, they have some more like racial diversity in Australian Survivor, but not really much, I guess, like age diversity. And really, still, I feel like for the racial diversity, they can do better. But I guess it's going in the right direction for Australian Survivor, but definitely there are like more ways that they can improve.
I was just looking at the Wikipedia page about like the demography of Australia, so like what kind of people live there. And I thought it was really interesting because it's like a lot of Australian people, or not a lot, but like a decent amount of Australian people are like immigrants from like Asian nations. So like 6% of the Australian population in 2016 identified as Chinese, and there's like 2% who are Vietnamese, 2% who are Filipino, 3% who are Indian. And so it's like, I feel like we didn't really see that reflected as much on the screen. I think one of the contestants was Filipino, or I guess two because brother and sister, but yeah.
Yeah, I also saw an article about like LGBT diversity in Australian Survivor, and I think it was Khan from this season talking about LGBT representation and how like he was feeling, oh, I might be the only gay person on my tribe, and then talking about how previous seasons there is good queer representation, but also how like they can improve upon it as well. And I think it's interesting, like they're telling those stories like Sophie, I think. Sophie and
Yes,
KJ.
Sophie, who was
Sophie had the
married
yeah.
or partnered with the Australian or the footballer. I don't know what he did, but like the sports star. And then she broke up with him and ended up with a woman. That was cute. I like that bit.
Yeah, so like just sharing diverse stories in these intro packages. I love the intro packages. Like they're so aesthetic and just cool to watch these people in like their day-to-day lives. If they're like a sports person, if they're like a stay-at-home person, if there's some kind of like person big in their field. Also, like the cinematography is amazing with all of the aerial shots that they have, the animal shots of like the crocodiles as well as like the kangaroos and like lightning. It's just so cool to see like the cinematography and how much thought goes into those intro packages, as well as like setting up the scene of, oh, here's some cool nature, and then it goes into like JLP or the tribe talking.
Because Australia really has some like cool wildlife too. Like I feel like it's kind of a running joke that like a lot of Australia's wildlife is like dangerous or whatever, but it's also really pretty and diverse and cool. So
Yeah, so overall, I was just sort of confused in this premiere episode why everyone was so shocked that they would be split from their loved one. Like, there are fans on these teams, and of the two times this theme, Blood versus Water, was done in the US, the loved ones were always split from their pair into two separate tribes. So, was production just tricking people? Like, hey, you're going to be playing with your loved one, sign up. Like, you're an influencer, you're famous, come on out here and let's do this. You'll get to play with them. And then they just tricked them. I was like, why is everyone so shocked? Like, you should assume you're being split from your partner.
I wonder if it's like they just played up the shock value for the editing purposes of it. Because like a lot of it was just like I don't want to be separated from my person, which I feel like is true whether or not you know that you're going to be separated.
Yeah, I guess that could be it. People just making shocked faces so they can get some screen time. I think something else to note from like this beginning intro segment was Sandra coming in on a helicopter, which is probably forced. I was like, Sandra, you gotta like keep it cool, be on the down low. And then everyone is the queen, the queen. Oh, she's on the helicopter. Or Oprah's coming in on the helicopter.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those things where like it seemed like everyone knew who Sandra was, and I would have like paid to see Chrissy, I think that's her name, the one who doesn't know anything about Survivor, be like, who the fuck is that? Just because I think that would have been so funny.
It's Oprah.
Obviously, it's Oprah, so
I'm like, maybe from afar it can sort of be Oprah. I don't I feel like if you were, say you were one of those people standing there and someone came in on a helicopter, who would you think it would be? I would like, I guess because it had the American flag on the side, you would think it's an American, right? So maybe Boston Rob,
I was gonna
maybe
say I would
Sandra.
assume it was like Boston Rob, just because I feel like Sandra, like I feel like doesn't do a lot of like publicity stuff with Survivor. I guess that's not true. I don't know. I feel like when I think of like the big face of Survivor, it's always Boston Rob, just because Jeff loves him so much and he's been on so many freaking seasons. So
Yeah, I feel like I would think Boston Rob too, especially after Russell being invited to Australian Survivor. Um, But then once you see like a woman walking out, then you're like, okay, if it's not Boston Rob, it's probably Sandra coming out of the helicopter.
I wonder like why they keep bringing on American Survivor players. Like, is it just because they want like Americans to watch Australian Survivor, so they like bait them with their one person, and then like, what's the strategy there?
Could be. I Yeah, I mean for Australian Big Brother, their celebrity version, they had Caitlyn Jenner and Omarosa on there, and um Meghan Markle's brother, who are all three of them are American. So, like, they're not Australian to be on Celebrity Australian Big Brother. So, apparently, like, they got such a big paycheck to go there, though. And, like, Omarosa and Caitlyn were out within the first week. And sources were saying they literally got 500K to go for 1 week, which I'm like,
That would
if
be
you were
rich,
them, you should
though.
go.
Like, what do you think Sandra's appearance fee is to be on Australian Survivor?
Rumor is that Sophie, who's the influencer, was paid 200K, but a lot of people are saying that seems fake and that the news source they're getting it from is like a, like a TMZ gossipy news source, so it's not that credible because like the prize money for Australian Survivor isn't even like, that'd be like half your prize money because I think they get 500K for winning.
Yeah, that seems like a lot, especially because like I guess what level influencer is she at? Because like I could maybe see that if you were getting like millions and millions of viewers from her, but like even then, that's a little
I
sus.
think on Instagram, let's see, I'm pretty sure she was at like 200K. Sophia, what's her last name? Yeah, she's at 266K on Instagram.
So like she's an influencer, but she's not like a super huge influencer.
Yeah, I guess not like a Caitlyn Jenner or Omarosa level of like fame and notoriety, right?
Yeah, that just like that seems like a lie. So
So it's exciting. I feel like having a US person on your season, especially someone of the Sandra level caliber, everyone says, you know, the Mount Rushmore of Survivor, Sandra's on there, would gain people to go and watch Australian Survivor, which brings us back to why is it not on Paramount Plus? If you wanted like new viewership to watch your show, why are you
make it
making people
easy for
go through
them.
weird ways to watch? Yeah. So just sort of weird there. But Sandra, she comes in then on the helicopter. Chrissy thinks it's Oprah, which is funny. Chrissy just has so many amazing one-liners. She's just funny TV on there, not knowing like what is happening. But Alyssa, with the edit, after watching just the first episode, I watched the first 3 from this week. How many cast members can you name?
Okay, Chrissy and Croc,
Yeah.
Sandra and Nina, Jay and Alex,
Okay.
Jordy and Jesse, Sophie, Andy.
Wait, is that 8? Yeah, 8. You're at 8. One third.
You see, I didn't even know there were 24 people, so you just shocked me. I thought there were only 20, so obviously I've lost like 4 of them along the way. Yeah, I think that's all. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty good. Those are like the main characters so far. I was seeing on Reddit, everyone kept on saying Pilot Josh. Pilot Josh is going to win this game. And then I was like, who the heck is Josh? Like, I can't even think of who's Josh's partner would be. So
His
I couldn't even
personal
think of.
trainer cousin.
Yeah, after Googling it, it's what? Josh and Jordan, which I'm like, who's Jordan? So
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I couldn't place the name, the face, their job, who they were even with. I was like, how does everyone think Pilot Josh is going to win? He didn't even get an intro package.
I think it's a meme, like everyone's saying that Heather was gonna win.
Mm. But the Australian Survivor edit is always very lopsided. There's lots of purple people. I feel like they very much go, they have a few main characters, and then everyone else is sort of like a background character. So for the first episode, Mark, Sophie, and Shay got solo intro packages, which in the premiere episode, that is something to note, I think, because a bunch of people got partner intro package is them with their pair, and then some people just got nothing. No partner packages, no solo packages. But Mark getting a solo makes sense because he's a returnee player. Sophie getting a solo package makes sense because she's a well-known influencer. People might be tuning in to watch her. Shay, I think that's someone to keep your eye out on. She was maybe potentially on the bottom of that vote, so maybe that's why they gave her an intro package. But considering she made it past the first week and wasn't voted out, I think that's someone to keep your eye out on because they're introducing her to us so early.
Which one was Shay?
Partnered with Ben.
That means
she
absolutely nothing to me.
um she and Brianna found the idol clue
Oh, was she
against Chrissy.
raced Chrissy to the
Yeah.
podium? Okay.
I was like, which episode did that happen in again? After 3 episodes in a week, everything blends together. But yes,
I
that
think
is
it's
Shay.
weird that they have so many purples when they have so much more time than the US Survivor. Because I feel like with US Survivor, like there's people who don't get as strong of an edit, but like there's normally only like 1 or 2 purple people. And so I feel like it's one of those things where like if you have like 3.5 hours every week, you should be able to show everyone at least a little bit.
Exactly, right? It's for 42 minutes, a 1 hour episode a week with all those commercials versus 3 hours, 3.5 hours, depending on how long these episodes are a week. I'm like, I don't know. If you don't get an intro package within the first 2 weeks, it's sort of like, that sucks. It's sort of like how we were talking about Heather last season, where if you're going out there and then you're totally purpled, like, this is supposed to be something that you're sharing with your friends and family, and your whole experience was just like wiped from existence. That's like really terrible.
Yeah. Especially because like we said, Australian Survivor doesn't really have an excuse. So I wonder if part of the reason Sophie's only getting a strong edit is because she's an influencer. Like I feel like that could definitely affect things.
Yeah, I guess out of the famous people, Sandra famous, Croc as a former NRL player is like, I guess, famous if you're like watching sports and stuff. And I think with Chrissy taking up a lot of screen time because she's chaotic and fun, then he's going to get more like airtime in conjunction with her. There's a guy from Master Chef Australia, Khan, who got a lot of screen time in episodes 2 and 3. So maybe it's like, oh, they're pushing their like more influencer famous people so that people would tune in. But also, it's like Khan, at least in episode 2 and 3, was more like integrated into what was happening. So it makes sense that he got a lot of airtime. Um, versus like, I guess we haven't really seen too much of Sophie in things to get more airtime.
Yeah, I feel like Nina also, like, she was a part of the vote in this episode, but they also definitely pushed her as like one of the main characters of this vote. So it'll be interesting to see like how far Nina gets just based on being Sandra's daughter. So
Yeah, and then in episode 2, Brianna got a solo intro package, and then Sam, who is Mark's wife, they are two of the returnee players this season, got her own separate intro packages. So now Mark and Sam, as partners and returnee players, had their solo intro packages. Brianna getting one makes sense, I guess, because then she was voted out that episode. So that's why they stuck her intro package there. But the editing, it's just so hard because it's like, oh, I want to see, that person looks cool. And then, oh, nope, they don't get to talk ever.
yeah, I feel like that's the case with a lot of like people. Like you think everyone who gets cast on Survivor, I feel like is cool enough to have their own solo intro package. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gotten cast. So
Yeah, but we go into this first reward challenge. It's like a wrestling kind of challenge. My favorite. I love these kinds of physical challenges. Apparently they're like similar to Winners at War, where there is a lot of unfilmed people doing this, or not aired people doing this challenge, where two pairs, they would go up and they would do the challenge and get points. So it's probably like up to 5 points wins, not up to 3 like it was shown on the TV show, because there's a lot of people that did do it and their round wasn't shown.
that sucks. But I guess it makes sense. I feel like this reward challenge was kind of unfair because they pitted all of the like loved ones against each other. And I feel like normally when they do this kind of challenge, they do it where like, oh, you get to pick who goes up against who. Like they say like, oh, you have to pick a male. Oh, no, you have to pick a female. And I feel like that kind of thing, like Croc and Chrissy, there was no way that Chrissy was going to win that.
Yeah, unless Croc let her win. It's like you're putting all your money on Croc. Chrissy would never win that.
It felt like it was very unbalanced because of the way they decided to do that. But
which is interesting because in the preview for next week, they seem to have another wrestling challenge where it seems to be with your partner pair. So are we going to have some more pairs? Like, will Mark and Sam go against each other? Will Croc and Chrissy go against each other again? Which will be like interesting to see. And then if your pair is voted out, then do you have to sit out of the challenge? I wonder if that will come into like play or strategy if there are more of these partner challenges, because in episode 2 and 3 it wasn't any kind of partner challenge. It was like a team challenge, that kind of thing, where if your partner got voted out, it didn't really matter. So I do wonder if there are more partner challenges. Like, do you vote out like Croc's partner Chrissy so that Croc can't compete in challenges because he's such a big beast? Like, would you do something like that?
I think that this is kind of only tangentially related. It would be really fun if they did the tied fates thing that Survivor South Africa did, but with the blood versus water, except for you're tied to somebody else's loved one. So I just think that
Ooh.
would be fun.
I
But
feel like that's a thing that they do in like Sequester, that game show, like where sort of similar to how Survivor South Africa did it. And then you have to like keep your random partners safe while also juggling your partner. That would be interesting.
yeah. So that was just a random thought I had when you were talking about that.
But reward challenge, the slide looked a little bit dangerous. Like you catapult yourself off. I was so afraid someone was going to like jump and then like hit their chin on the like ground and then like bounce back up and like knock themselves unconscious. Like I'd be so scared to run and like jump and like crack your head open on the ground while you're running and jumping. I'm like,
break your
geez.
neck.
Yeah, I'm like, everyone was saying, keep your head up, keep your head up. I was like, oh my God, that looks so dangerous.
Yeah, but Australian Survivor is kind of dangerous, so is what it is,
Yeah,
I guess.
which we'll talk about with Andy and Kate with the challenge. But speaking of danger, the immunity challenge, Alex gets injured. But it was like, who the heck is Alex?
Like, yeah, I literally only knew his name because he got injured, and I was like, am I supposed to know this man? Am I supposed to care
right.
about this man?
I
Especially
feel like
because it was so dumb. Like, he didn't do anything cool. He just bent down and tweaked his back.
It's like they should have given Alex an intro package before the challenge. So like when he walks into the challenge hobbling, then people would have cared. Like, oh my gosh, Alex, what happened? Are you hurt? But it's like we've never even heard from him ever. He's never talked on the show before. So it's sort of like, who is this and why are they limping now? It's so weird. Like this random person got hurt, don't even know him, didn't even know his name before JLP said, Alex, you're injured. And like, it makes sense. Okay. If he was hurt off camera, but walking to the challenge, makes sense why it wasn't on film because they wouldn't be filming it. But I'm like, where was his intro package? At least let him talk once so we know who he is before he gets injured, because I feel like this injury plays a pivotal role in the first episode.
I also thought it was weird because I didn't recognize his brother.
Oh, Alyssa. They are not even blood versus water, really. Alex's sister is dating Jay, his partner here, but apparently they broke up. So they're not even like, they're listed as brother-in-laws, but they're not even like, they're not really connected.
Wow. Okay. Well,
Alex's friend.
yeah,
right? It's different
friends.
from Croc and Chrissy, who are like actually in-laws. I don't know.
I feel like in-laws is so weird. Like, you can't get someone in your actual family to do it with you, so you have to like pick a random in-law.
They probably were like, Croc, your partner that you want is boring. Chrissy seems fun. You have to bring her. But yeah, apparently Alex's sister is like an influencer, famous too, was on The Bachelor, then became The Bachelorette. And so I guess rumored that they wanted her on the show, but then couldn't get her. So then they're like, okay, who's close with this famous person? Your brother, and then your boyfriend, now ex-boyfriend. Just so weird.
I need to talk to their casting department because that's just no.
I was like, maybe that's why they didn't give Alex and Jay an intro package, because their relationship like is not really blood versus water, So maybe that's why they didn't let Alex talk before that. And it was just so jarring because then in episode 2, Alex was fine and he was running up and down A-frames. So it's like, it's just so weird, this whole thing.
Yeah. It's fine. But the immunity challenge, you said you were going to talk about people getting injured, Kate and Andy?
Just Alex for this one.
Okay, I was like, I wasn't sure if there was a segue there somewhere that I missed. I was like, I'm pretty sure no one gets injured in this challenge, but okay.
Yeah, maybe secretly, but I thought it was good for Sandra that she did not volunteer to sit out of the challenge when Alex had to sit out. JLP is like, okay, bread team, blood team, who are you sitting out of the challenge? I thought Sandra maybe would have volunteered because it's such a theme like, oh, Sandra sit out bench. Sandra doesn't participate in challenges. So obviously she would sit out here. But I think it's really good. It shows Sandra did her homework, that she knows how important challenges are in Australian Survivor and how much they value this kind of strength. So good for Sandra not volunteering to sit out in the first challenge and showing that she can keep up with everyone else, like not being the person that slows down the whole team.
Yeah, just because I feel like that was one of her big weaknesses on her US Survivor like days, because it was like the sit out bench was the Sandra bench.
So good for Sandra. She's in workout gear this time. That's when Kate volunteered to sit out, and I was like, oh no, Andy's probably so sad now. Like, Kate, don't volunteer to sit out. But yeah, for the first week, Sandra only sat out in one reward challenge in episode 3, and her team was up by 2. So it does make sense that like you'd volunteer to sit out kind of thing because they're so much farther up in numbers. But I think good for Sandra. She's showing that she has like worked out in the off time and she's back to rock these people in challenges.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like Sandra as a challenge beast would be like the plot twist that 2022 needs. I was about to say 2021, but it's not 2021 anymore. So,
uh, the time is so difficult, honestly.
mm-hmm.
So I feel so bad for Andy. Like, it's always just so sad when the super fan goes home early because it's not living up to your expectations. And to go first, I just feel so sad. And on its second time, maybe he's coming back in with higher expectations to make the merge again and then maybe make the jury this time. Like, you want to hit all of those survivor milestones. Like, when the cast was announced, I was excited to see Andy come back again because I wanted to see how his story would continue. He's really good at challenges, like we saw in some of the throwback scenes that he got of like throwing things at targets. His sister was talking about how they practiced puzzles on their free time to go on to Survivor. And I just really thought he could have had that storyline where like maybe like you're awkward the first time and you get voted out early, but then you do better the second time and you're able to like get in with the tribe. But I just think the odds were stacked against him from the start. Being only one of 4 returnee players to come back reminds me of, I guess, a little bit of a spoiler for Australian Survivor All-Stars. They had 2 winners come back and then they were voted out first and second because they were the only winner on their team of 12. Like, the odds were stacked against them from the start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I felt bad for him too. I guess I couldn't remember which one he was. So, like, I had never seen the season that he was in. So, I guess I wasn't as, like, attached as you were. So, yeah.
Oh, so sad. And then it's extra sad his sister Kate got voted off third. So they're both gone in this first week, especially because we heard them saying, this is Kate's time. I want her to experience Survivor. We both are super fans of this show. Kate seems so nice. Like, her voice is so sweet. I think she should read like for meditation apps like Headspace or something. She's got a very soothing voice. And apparently she broke 3 ribs in the episode 3 reward challenge. So I'm like, dang, that really sucks. Like, hopefully she has been able to heal from that because like that is really like insane to break 3 ribs and then subsequently get voted out.
Mm-hmm. I just like, at least they get to go on like the pre-jury trip together.
I don't think they have one, Alyssa. I think Australian Survivor, if you're pre-jury, you get sent home.
Oh, the punches
double
just don't
depressed.
stop coming.
Yeah, so they don't even get a free trip.
Yikes.
But I think it makes sense to keep Alex around because Alex just seems young. I thought he was 21. I looked it up. He's 26, but it makes sense. Like, okay, he's a younger dude. He's maybe more of a like follower type than a leader type, versus Andy is definitely more of a leader type. Even if he doesn't have the social capital to get things done, he has the ideas, and maybe that could influence and sway people. So I definitely think it makes sense. Like, out of the returnee players, you're going to keep Mark on that team because he's so big and strong. And then you're going to vote Andy out, even though Andy could rock those challenges as well in the throwing things and the puzzles. But it does make a lot of sense why. And I just think the odds are stacked against you from the beginning, being only one of 4 returnee players. And besides Sandra, Andy made it the furthest out of the returnee players because Sam and Mark were both voted out pre-merge. So, yeah. Any thoughts on Alex?
Not really. He just kind of is there. I feel like the only people that I really have thoughts on are Chrissy, Sandra, and Nina. Just because I feel like having only seen one episode, they definitely focus the most on like those 3, I would say. So
Yeah, I think so. So, would you think that people would want to vote out the Americans, Alyssa? Like, are Nina and Sandra impacted? Like, would they get voted out next week, maybe? Because they both did make it past this first week. So, Sandra did beat Russell's standing here on Australian Survivor.
I feel like it's one of those things where Sandra isn't as like grating as Russell is, so it's not like people vote her off because they like are annoyed by her. And I think it's like we talk a lot about how there are certain people in Survivor where you can vote them out anytime. Because anytime you want them out, it'll be really easy to vote them out. And I feel like Sandra is definitely one of those people just because it would not ever be difficult to have someone say like, oh, we should vote out Sandra now because she needs to go home and get people to agree with that. Just because, like, I feel like everyone knows if Sandra makes it to the end, she can make a great argument based just on, like, I was the biggest threat and I still got to the end. So I feel like getting Sandra out shouldn't be a priority for them. And so I don't think it will be.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think like necessarily being American on Australian Survivor would be like a reason to vote her out or her daughter out necessarily. Like, even for US Survivor, now it's eligible for or for Canadians to apply and compete in US Survivor, which prior to season 39 in the US it wasn't allowed. So season 39 and 41 are the 2 seasons that have had Canadian citizens on US Survivor, and I feel like people didn't really care on Island of the Idols or the Survivor season 41, and it's like Erica won season 41 and she's Canadian, and people weren't like, "Oh, we can't have a Canadian win US Survivor." I feel like people don't necessarily care.
I feel like there's also a difference, though, between like Canada, a Canadian person playing on American Survivor, and an American playing on like Australian Survivor, because it's not like there's like Survivor Canada and so it's like they're stealing your chance. Like I guess if I was someone who lived in Australia and had been like applying and applying to get on Australian Survivor, I would be a little bit miffed that they kept bringing on like random
Mm.
American Survivor players potentially taking my spot. And so I feel like there could be more of like bitterness there where it's like just go play your own version of Survivor. Leave ours alone.
I
So
think there's a Canadian Survivor, but it's French. So you have like it's you have to speak French. So if you can't speak, then you're not in that one. But yeah, I think maybe more of the target would be from like, oh, you've played multiple times, similar to Edge of Extinction, where Aubrey got voted out pre-merge. It's because like, hey, you've already played once, like let us newbies play our own game. And I think that might come into play. Like, Sandra, you've already played so many times and you've won twice. Like, this is our time to shine. And like, Sandra's going to be hogging the screen time. So maybe you vote her out in the hopes that you're going to get more screen time. But yeah, maybe the accent thing too, because it's like Canadian versus American accents aren't that different. So maybe it doesn't stand out. And maybe like Erica or Tom, who are Canadian and on US Survivor, didn't necessarily like, yeah, whatever. I live in Canada, they might just like not mention it, versus it's like Sandra and Nina stand out because of their accent as well as because of who they are. They just stand out. An extra double target.
Yeah, I feel like the main thing is like it's kind of annoying when they bring someone on for like their third or fourth time playing because there are so many people who want to play. So, returnees.
Yeah, maybe Australian Survivor's having problems finding people because they got all these recruits on. Especially last season, Alyssa, there was like a ton of influencers and stuff on that had never seen the show. So it's like they're like literally just going to some sports game and finding popular people to stick them on the show. But it seems like this season there are more fans of the show.
Yeah, so I guess I always prefer seasons that have more fans of the show, as long as they're not all like super duper fans. Just because I feel like when you have more recruits, I feel like the game is simpler because they don't understand as much strategy, but.
Yeah, sort of similar thing happened last season with like a lot of like recruited people that didn't really know that what was happening, that the people that actually knew what was going on could like run laps around the people that didn't really know what was happening. But then you get the special recruits that are able to pick up the game like quickly, and then those are the special ones to see. I think that's truly magical, where someone can learn on the fly the game and then like succeed at it because they're good at adapting and learning and like smart. So maybe Chrissy can do that. She's learning. Tribunal Council, she wasn't that far off because MTV's The Challenge. Sometimes they call their like people that vote the people into the challenges the tribunal. So she wasn't that far off. Maybe she watches The Challenge.
Yeah. So yeah, I do think like it's one of those things where I feel like recruits are very hit and miss, where they can be very good, but they can also be very bad. So
Yeah. So I guess, do you have a winner pick from the first episode? I guess you only really know 10 people from this
I guess
premiere.
my winner pick would be Nina, just because she did have a moment about like, if my mom's the queen, I'm the rightful heir to the throne. Which I feel like if you're looking at it through an Edric perspective, like that could definitely be like foreshadowing her win. So yeah, but I guess Survivor Australia, from what I have heard, is a lot more difficult to follow edgically,
Yeah.
just because the edit can be very lopsided. And I guess like they had a winner recently that like everyone on Edgic was like, "How is it her?" But yeah, I guess Nina, based on A, knowing her name, and B, that line about like being the heir to the throne. It'd be really cool if she won too. So
The legacy is passing on. And then I feel like US missed out. Like you could have had Nina on a US season, but you didn't cast her yet, and now she is going to make her mark on Australian Survivor. I don't know. Jeff Probst doing some weird stuff. So we go JLP, getting us what we want to see on the TV.
yeah, I guess when would they have cast Nina though? Like, would they have cast her
Mm.
not in a Blood versus Water season? Just because I feel like it's
Yeah,
one of those things where part of the reason why Nina being on works is because it's Blood versus Water. Like Brandon Hance playing without Russell, that kind of just crashed and burned. So
I feel like she could have just been brought on randomly. Apparently, it's rumored that she was in the running for David versus Goliath, similar to Cerie's son was in the running for David versus Goliath. And so Cerie's son was then replaced by Davy on there. So they could have been introduced in just the regular US season. And it would have been interesting to also see like if like she obviously wouldn't really like say who she is. Maybe people would recognize her if they're like stalking Sandra and her kids, or like stalking Cerie and her kids kind of thing. But it would have been interesting to see like, would she go in as a blank slate? Hey, I'm Nina. Like, I'm from North Carolina, and not say who her parent is, versus, oh, everyone knows, yeah, you're related to Sandra here.
I feel like it's one of those things though where like it's easier when it's all out in the open because then you don't have to keep track of all of your lies. Because I feel like one of the things that disadvantaged Andy was he couldn't lie because he had already been on Survivor, and so he couldn't lie about things that he wanted to lie about. So
Another disadvantage, people already have seen you on TV, they know sort of your game, versus everyone else here is coming in as a blank slate. No one knows who Nina is, no one knows who any of these other random people are unless they're like an influencer. But even then, it's like Croc being famous for sport isn't the same thing as Sandra being famous for Survivor.
yeah. So do you have a winner pick?
Yeah, I guess I would say Shay because of her getting a solo intro package. The first episode and like not really having I mean, it's like why are they highlighting her so early? But like you were saying, Australian Survivor is so hard to predict. Their edit is sort of weird a lot of the times. So that's why for people that are getting a lot of screen time now, I worry because last season we saw two people get a lot of screen time and then they were both voted out pre-merge. So it could be something like that where if you're getting a lot of screen time now, you're the main character for the pre-merge and then new main characters come out for the post-merge. But Shay's partner Ben was aligned with Sandra in episode 3, so maybe they could get a power trio of Shay, Sandra, and her partner Ben in there. So we love to see it.
That would be fun.
But yeah, I'm so excited. Australian Survivor is always so much fun, and it's just so much content too, though. Like 3.5 hours of the show. And then if you're listening to Rob Has a Podcast, it's like 2-hour episodes and then exit interviews for like 2 or 3 people. It's just so many hours. It's a lot.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things that I would enjoy better binged. Like when I had like a week free, I just binged the latest season of Australian Survivor rather than trying to keep up as it is coming out. Just because sometimes I have a hard time keeping up with US Survivor, and it's like, yikes.
Yeah, but definitely let us know in the comments your thoughts of Australian Survivor Blood versus Water. Are you all watching this season? Who is your winner pick? Are you sad to see Andy go in the first episode? Let us know. And definitely like the video and subscribe so we can go back to Applebee's.
Yes, we need our Applebee's, our favorite sit down restaurant. But we will see you guys soon with another video.